She saved his cub with her life, the Alpha King couldn't let her go. The night everything changed. She stood in the shadows of the grand ballroom, her heart pounding like a war drum against her ribs. Welcome to my channel, Crownfire Tales. Don't forget to like and subscribe because you're about to witness a story that will leave you breathless. Selene Thorne wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't supposed to witness what happened next. But fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of timing. The Crystal Moon Gala was the most exclusive event in the supernatural world, a night where the most powerful Alpha Kings, ancient bloodlines, and immortal councils gathered under one roof. Selene was there as a server, invisible in her black uniform, carrying champagne flutes to people who wouldn't remember her face 5 seconds after she walked away. She was nobody. A wolfless reject from the disbanded Shadowvale pack. Her family had been slaughtered 3 years ago in what the council called an unfortunate rogue attack. She knew better. She'd seen the insignia on the blade that killed her father, a crimson crown wrapped in thorns. The mark of someone powerful. Someone untouchable. Tonight, she was going to find out who. The Alpha King's arrival. The room fell silent as he entered. Cale Ashford. The Alpha King of the Northern Dominion. They said he was carved from darkness itself, 6'4" of lethal grace, with eyes like molten silver that could see straight through your soul. His reputation preceded him, ruthless in war, merciless in judgment, and utterly untouchable in matters of the heart. Selene's breath caught as he moved through the crowd. Every head bowed. Every knee bent. Power radiated from him like heat from a flame, and even from across the ballroom, she felt it, a magnetic pull that made her skin prickle and her pulse race. Focus, she told herself. You're not here to admire him. You're here for answers. She'd spent 3 years tracking whispers and rumors, following breadcrumbs that led to dead ends and dangerous encounters. But tonight, she'd finally gotten a lead. One of the council members, Lord Dorian Blackwell, had information about her family's massacre. He would be here. She just had to find him. The secret in the shadows. 2 hours into the gala, Selene's opportunity came. Lord Blackwell slipped away from the main hall, disappearing down a corridor marked private, no entry. Selene's instinct screamed at her to follow. She ditched her serving tray, her heart hammering as she crept down the dimly lit hallway. The corridor ended at a heavy oak door. Voices filtered through, low, urgent, conspiratorial. She pressed her ear against the wood. Can't keep this hidden forever, a gravelly voice said. Lord Blackwell. We don't need forever, another voice replied, smooth and cold. We just need until the blood moon ceremony. Once Cale completes the ritual, the power transfer will be irreversible. The Northern Dominion will fall, and the council will finally have control. Selene's blood turned to ice. And the girl? Blackwell asked. The Shadowvale survivor? She's nobody. Wolfless. Broken. Even if she's alive, she poses no threat. Rage flooded through Selene's veins. They were talking about her. About her family. About a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of power. And they were planning to destroy Cale Ashford. The confrontation. She should have left. She should have run. Instead, she kicked the door open. 3 men stood around a table covered in ancient scrolls and dark artifacts. Lord Blackwell's eyes widened in shock. The other 2, council members she recognized from the gala, reached for weapons. You, Blackwell hissed. The Thorn girl. Impossible. Not impossible, Selene said, her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her insides. Just very, very angry. Before they could react, she lunged. She had no wolf, no supernatural strength, but 3 years of survival had taught her how to fight dirty. She grabbed a ceremonial dagger from the table and slashed at the nearest council member, catching him across the arm. Chaos erupted. Blackwell roared, shifting into his wolf form, a massive gray beast with yellow eyes full of malice. The other 2 followed suit, cornering her against the wall. This is it, she thought. This is how I die. Then the door exploded inward. The Alpha King's wrath. Cale Ashford filled the doorway like an avenging god. His silver eyes blazed with fury as he took in the scene, Selene bleeding and cornered, the 3 council members in wolf form, the incriminating scrolls scattered across the table. Treason, he said, his voice a low, lethal growl. Blackwell shifted back to human form, his expression shifting from rage to calculated charm. Your Majesty, this isn't what it looks like. The girl is a spy. Liar. Selene shouted. Cale's gaze snapped to her, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. Their eyes locked, and something electric passed between them, a recognition, a pull, a connection that defied logic. His nostrils flared. His body went rigid. Mate, his wolf rumbled, audible even in human form. Selene's world tilted. No. That was impossible. She was wolfless. She couldn't have a mate. She couldn't be bound to the most powerful alpha in existence. But the bond snapped into place anyway, a golden thread wrapping around her soul and pulling tight. Cale's expression shifted from shock to something darker, possession, hunger, and a savage protectiveness that made her knees weak. Touch her, he said to the council members, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper, and I will erase your bloodlines from history. The revelation. Blackwell made the mistake of attacking anyway. What happened next was brutal and swift. Cale didn't even shift. He moved like liquid shadow, his speed inhuman, his strength devastating. Within seconds, all 3 council members were on the ground, broken and whimpering. Cale grabbed Blackwell by the throat, lifting him off the ground with one hand. Speak, he commanded. Tell me everything, or I'll make your death last days. Blackwell's eyes bulged. He gasped out words between strangled breaths. The Shadowvale Pack, we killed them, framed it as a rogue attack, they discovered the ritual, the one that steals alpha power, we needed them gone. Selene's vision blurred with tears. Finally. Finally, the truth. And the girl? Cale's grip tightened. Insurance, Blackwell choked. If she'd manifested her wolf, she carries the Thorn bloodline, ancient magic, could have stopped us. Cale's expression turned to stone. He looked at Selene, and in his eyes, she saw something that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure, a promise. You're mine now, he said, his voice rough with barely controlled emotion. And anyone who hurt you will pay in blood. The impossible choice. He dropped Blackwell, who collapsed in a heap. Then Cale crossed the room in 3 strides and stood before Selene, his presence overwhelming, intoxicating. You're coming with me, he said. It wasn't a request. I don't even know you, she whispered, her voice shaking. You know me, he countered, his silver eyes burning into hers. The bond knows. Your soul knows. And whether you accept it or not, you're my mate. That makes you my queen. My equal. My everything. Selene's mind raced. This was insane. She'd come here for revenge, for answers, and instead, she'd found this. A mate bond. The Alpha King. A conspiracy that threatened the entire supernatural world. What do you want from me? She asked. Cale's hand came up, his fingers gently brushing her cheek. The touch sent electricity through her entire body, and she hated how much she craved more. I want you to trust me, he said softly. I want you to let me protect you. And I want you to help me destroy everyone who took your family from you. His thumb traced her lower lip, and her breath hitched. But most of all, he murmured, leaning close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body, I want you to accept what we both know is inevitable. What's that? She whispered. His smile was dark, possessive, and utterly devastating. That you belong to me. And I will burn the world down before I let anyone take you away. The cliffhanger. Before Selene could respond, before she could process the overwhelming storm of emotions crashing through her, the door burst open again. A woman stood in the entrance, beautiful, cold, and radiating power. Her crimson dress matched the fury in her eyes. "Kale," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "So this is why you've been avoiding my calls. You found your precious mate." Kale's body went rigid. "Morgana. What are you doing here?" The woman, Morgana, smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm here to remind you of our agreement. The one you made 5 years ago. The blood oath." Celine's stomach dropped. "What agreement?" she demanded. Morgana's gaze slid to her, assessing and dismissive. "Oh, darling. Didn't he tell you? Cale Ashford promised himself to me. Body, soul, and crown. And a mate bond won't break a blood oath." She stepped forward, pulling a glowing red chain from thin air, a magical binding that pulsed with dark energy. "So you have a choice, little wolf," Morgana purred. "Watch your mate fulfill his oath to me, or die trying to stop it." Cale's roar of fury shook the foundations of the mansion. And Celine realized her nightmare had only just begun. Forbidden romance and secrets. The blood oath. The air in the room crackled with tension so thick it felt suffocating. Celine's heart hammered against her ribs as she stared at the glowing red chain in Morgana's pale hands. The blood oath pulsed with ancient magic, its power tangible even to someone wolfless like her. She could feel it trying to pull Cale toward the sorceress, could see the way his muscles tensed as he fought against its invisible grip. "You have no right to be here," Cale growled, his silver eyes blazing with barely contained rage. "That oath was made under duress, and you know it." Morgana laughed, the sound like wind chimes made of broken glass. "Duress? Oh, darling. You came to me begging for help when your father was dying from the shadow plague. I saved his life. The price was always clear, your hand in marriage, your crown, your eternal loyalty." She tilted her head, her crimson lips curving into a cruel smile. "Or have you forgotten how desperately you pleaded?" Celine watched Cale's jaw clench, watched the muscle in his cheek tick. There was truth in Morgana's words, she could see it in his eyes. But there was also something else, regret, anger, and a fierce determination that made her pulse quicken. "That was before," Cale said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. He took a step toward Morgana, and even the powerful sorceress seemed to hesitate. "Before I knew the oath could be broken. Before I found her." His gaze flicked to Celine, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. "Before I found my true mate. The impossible truth." Morgana's perfect composure cracked for just a moment. Her eyes narrowed, dark magic swirling around her fingertips. "A mate bond means nothing against a blood oath, Cale. You know the laws. The old magic predates even the moon goddess herself." "Then I'll break the old magic," Cale said simply. The room went deathly silent. Lord Blackwell, still crumpled on the floor with his broken conspirators, let out a strangled laugh. "Impossible. No one has ever broken a blood oath. It would kill you both." "Then I'll die," Cale said, his eyes never leaving Celine's face. "But I won't be bound to anyone except her." Celine's throat tightened. She barely knew this man, this Alpha King who commanded armies and inspired fear across the supernatural world. Yet he was willing to die for her? For a mate bond that had snapped into place mere minutes ago? It was insane. It was terrifying. It was the most romantic thing anyone had ever said to her. "Stop," Celine heard herself say. Her voice was stronger than she felt. "Just, stop. Everyone." All eyes turned to her. Morgana's expression was one of amused contempt. Cale's was desperate hope. The council members looked at her like she was a lamb that had wandered into a den of wolves. Maybe she was. "I need answers," Celine said, forcing her legs to stop shaking as she stepped forward. "Before anyone dies or makes grand sacrifices, I need to understand what the hell is happening. What is a blood oath? How do you break it? And why?" She turned to Cale, her heart in her throat. "Why would you risk everything for someone you just met?" The Alpha King's confession. Kale's expression softened in a way that transformed his entire face. The ruthless king disappeared, replaced by something achingly human. Because I've been searching for you my entire life, he said quietly. I didn't know your name, didn't know your face. But I felt you. In my dreams, in my soul. An emptiness that nothing could fill. He took a step closer, and Celine found she couldn't move away even if she wanted to. The moment I saw you tonight, standing in that doorway covered in blood and fury, I knew. You're not just my mate, Celine Thorne. You're the other half of my soul. And I would rather die than live without you. Celine's eyes burned with unshed tears. You don't even know me. I know you lost your family and spent 3 years hunting for justice instead of running away. I know you kicked down a door to confront 3 council members with nothing but rage and a ceremonial dagger. I know you're brave, fierce, and utterly magnificent. His voice dropped to a rough whisper. I know enough. Morgana made a disgusted sound. How touching. Truly. But this changes nothing, Kale. The blood oath stands. You have 3 days until the blood moon ceremony. If you haven't fulfilled your promise to me by then, the magic will consume you. You'll die screaming, and your precious mate will feel every second of your agony through the bond. Celine felt ice flood her veins. 3 days? 3 days, Morgana confirmed, her smile returning. Tick-tock, little wolf. Better decide quickly, does your mate marry me and live, or choose you and die? With a flash of crimson light, she vanished. The safe house. 20 minutes later, Celine found herself in the back of a black SUV speeding through the night. Kale sat across from her, his silver eyes never leaving her face. His beta, an intimidating man named Theron with scars crossing his dark skin, drove in tense silence. They'd left the gala in chaos. The council members were in custody. The guests were in an uproar. And Celine's entire world had been turned upside down. Where are we going? She asked. Somewhere safe, Kale said. Morgana will come after you now. She sees you as a threat. I'm wolfless, Celine said bitterly. I'm not a threat to anyone. You're wrong. Kale leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, closing the distance between them. Blackwell said you carry the Thorn bloodline. Ancient magic. Do you know what that means? Celine shook her head. The Thorns were seer wolves. They could glimpse the threads of fate, manipulate destiny itself. It's why the council killed your family, they were afraid of your power. His gaze intensified. Morgana is afraid of you too. Because if anyone can break a blood oath, it's someone with seer wolf blood. Celine's laugh was hollow. I can't even shift. How am I supposed to break ancient magic? I don't know, Kale admitted. But we're going to find out. The SUV pulled up to a massive estate hidden deep in the forest. Iron gates opened automatically, revealing a mansion that looked more like a fortress. Stone walls, reinforced windows, and guards stationed at every entrance. Welcome to Shadow Peak, Kale said as they exited the vehicle. My private residence. No one can reach you here. The unexpected attraction. Inside, the mansion was surprisingly warm. Dark wood, soft lighting, and a massive fireplace that crackled in the main living room. Theron disappeared to coordinate security, leaving Celine and Kale alone for the first time since the bond snapped into place. The silence was deafening. Celine stood by the fireplace, hugging herself. She was still wearing the server's uniform, now stained with blood and torn at the sleeve. She was exhausted, terrified, and completely overwhelmed. You should rest, Kale said softly. He stood near the doorway, as if afraid to come closer. There's a guest room upstairs. Clothes in the closet. Everything you need. I can't rest, Celine said, her voice cracking. My family is dead. There's a blood oath trying to steal my mate. And apparently, I have magic I can't access because my wolf is broken. She turned to face him, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. How am I supposed to rest when my entire life is falling apart? Cale crossed the room in 3 strides. He cupped her face in his hands, large, calloused, impossibly gentle. His thumbs brushed away her tears, and the touch sent shivers racing down her spine. Your life isn't falling apart, he murmured, his silver eyes burning into hers. It's beginning. And I swear on everything I am, Celine, I will protect you. I will find a way to break this oath. And I will make everyone who hurt you pay. Why, she whispered. Why do you care so much? Because you're mine, he said simply. And I take care of what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it ignited something deep in her core, a hunger she'd never felt before. The mate bond thrummed between them, pulling them closer, demanding more. Cale, she breathed. Tell me to stop, he said, his voice rough. His forehead rested against hers, his breath warm against her lips. Tell me you don't feel this, and I'll walk away. I'll give you space. She kissed him. The first kiss. It was desperate, hungry, and utterly consuming. Cale made a sound deep in his throat, half growl, half groan, and pulled her against him. His hands tangled in her hair, tilting her head to deepen the kiss. Celine's fingers clutched his shirt, needing something to anchor her as the world spun out of control. The mate bond exploded between them. She could feel his emotions crashing over her, desire, protectiveness, possessiveness, and something deeper. Something that felt like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cale's eyes had shifted to pure silver, his wolf rising to the surface. Mine, his wolf rumbled. Yours, Celine found herself saying, and she meant it. Cale's control snapped. He lifted her effortlessly, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her toward the stairs. His mouth found her neck, kissing, nipping, marking her with every step. If we do this, he said against her skin, his voice strained, there's no going back. The bond will complete. You'll be bound to me forever. Good, Celine gasped as his teeth grazed her pulse point. I don't want to go back. They made it to his bedroom, a massive space dominated by a 4-poster bed and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the forest. Cale laid her down gently, his body covering hers, his weight perfect and right. You're so beautiful, he murmured, his hands exploring, claiming. So perfect. So mine. The interruption. Just as his lips found hers again, just as her fingers started unbuttoning his shirt, an alarm blared through the mansion. Cale jerked back, his eyes flashing. What the hell? Theron's voice came through a speaker in the wall, urgent and panicked. Sir, we have a breach. Multiple hostiles approaching from the north. They're using dark magic to mask their scent. Cale was off the bed in an instant, his entire demeanor shifting from lover to warrior. How many? At least 20. Sir, they're not after you. A pause. They're after her. Celine's blood turned to ice. Cale turned to her, his expression fierce. Stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except me. Cale. Promise me, he demanded, his hands gripping her shoulders. Promise me you'll stay safe. I promise, she whispered. He kissed her once more, hard, possessive, desperate, and then he was gone, shifting mid-run into his massive black wolf. Celine was alone. The betrayal. She should have listened. She should have stayed in the room. But 15 minutes later, when she heard screaming from downstairs and smelled smoke, she couldn't just hide. She crept down the hallway, her heart in her throat. The sounds of battle echoed through the mansion, snarls, roars, and the crackle of magic. She reached the top of the stairs and looked down. Chaos. Wolves fought in the main living room. Blood stained the expensive rugs. And there, in the center of it all, stood a figure she recognized. Theron. But he wasn't fighting the attackers. He was directing them. Find the girl, he commanded. Morgana wants her alive. Celine's world shattered. Kale's most trusted beta was a traitor. Before she could run, before she could scream a warning, a hand clamped over her mouth from behind. "Hello, little seer," a voice whispered in her ear. "The mistress has been waiting for you." The world went black. The ultimate power and revenge. Awakening in chains. Celine woke to the sound of dripping water and the metallic taste of blood in her mouth. Her head throbbed with a vicious intensity, and when she tried to move, cold iron bit into her wrists. She was chained to a stone wall in what looked like an ancient dungeon, moss-covered walls, flickering torches, and the overwhelming stench of dark magic that made her stomach turn. Finally awake, a silky voice said from the shadows. "I was beginning to think my man hit you too hard." Morgana stepped into the torchlight, her crimson dress now replaced with a black gown that seemed to absorb the light around it. She looked like a queen of nightmares, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. "Where am I?" Celine demanded, her voice hoarse. She pulled at the chains, but they were reinforced with magic. She could feel it humming against her skin, burning whenever she struggled. "Somewhere your precious Alpha King will never find you," Morgana said, circling her like a predator. "Deep beneath the Crimson Mountains, in the ruins of the old Seerwolf Temple." "Fitting, don't you think? You'll die in the same place your ancestors once wielded their power." Celine's blood ran cold. "What do you want from me?" Morgana's laugh was cruel. "Isn't it obvious? I want what every sorceress wants, more power. And you, little wolf, are the key to breaking the one barrier that's kept me from true immortality." She leaned close, her breath cold against Celine's cheek. "The Seerwolf bloodline carries the ability to manipulate fate itself. With your blood, I can rewrite the laws of magic. I can become unstoppable." "I'm wolfless," Celine spat. "I have no power." "Oh, but you do." Morgana traced a sharp nail down Celine's arm, drawing a thin line of blood. "It's just sleeping. Suppressed by trauma and grief. But don't worry, I know exactly how to wake it up." She pulled a ceremonial dagger from her belt, the blade glowing with sickly green magic. "Pain," Morgana whispered, "is a wonderful catalyst." Kale's fury. Miles away, Kale Ashford was tearing his mansion apart. His black wolf had rampaged through every room, every hallway, searching for Celine's scent. When he'd finally shifted back to human form, covered in blood from the attackers he'd slaughtered, the devastation hit him like a physical blow. She was gone. His mate. His queen. The only person who'd made him feel truly alive in centuries. Gone. "Sir," a warrior said hesitantly from the doorway. The young man's face was pale, his arm in a makeshift sling. "We found Theron." Kale's silver eyes snapped to him. "Where?" "In the East Wing. He's been working with Morgana for months." "We found communications, sir. Plans. He's the one who told her about Celine." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Kale walked past the warrior without a word, his bare feet silent on the blood-stained floors. He found Theron in what remained of his study, surrounded by 10 of Kale's most loyal warriors. The beta was on his knees, his face bruised and swollen, silver chains wrapped around his body. "Alpha," Theron said, his voice breaking. "Please, I can explain." Kale's fist connected with Theron's jaw with such force that 3 of his teeth went flying. "Explain?" Kale's voice was deadly quiet. "Explain how you betrayed your pack. Explain how you sold out your alpha. Explain how you handed my mate, to that witch." He grabbed Theron by the throat, lifting him off the ground. His eyes had gone pure silver, his wolf fully surfaced and screaming for blood. "She has my son," Theron choked out. "Morgana, she took my son 2 years ago. Said she'd kill him if I didn't help her." Kale's grip tightened. "So you chose your son over your alpha? Over your pack? Over an innocent woman?" "I had no choice." Theron screamed, tears streaming down his face. What would you have done? If it was Liam? The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Cale knew exactly what he would have done. He would have burned the world down for his son. He would have betrayed anyone, killed anyone, sacrificed anything. But that didn't change what Theron had done. Where did she take Selene? Cale demanded. The Crimson Mountains. The old temple. But Alpha, you can't go there, it's a trap. She wants you to come. She's planning to use the mate bond too. Cale snapped Theron's neck before he could finish. The body dropped to the floor, and Cale turned to his warriors. Gather everyone. We march on the Crimson Mountains in 1 hour. Anyone who stands in our way dies. Sir, one of the warriors said carefully. That's Morgana's territory. She'll have hundreds of dark witches protecting it. We'll be outnumbered. Cale's smile was pure savagery. Good. I'm in the mood for a slaughter. The Seer's awakening. Back in the dungeon, Selene was screaming. Morgana's dagger had carved intricate symbols into her arms, her chest, her back, ancient seer wolf runes that burned like liquid fire. Blood pooled beneath her, and through the agony, Selene could feel something stirring deep inside her. Something old. Something powerful. Something furious. That's it, Morgana crooned, her eyes gleaming with manic excitement. Wake up, little seer. Show me your power. Selene's vision blurred. She could see multiple timelines overlapping, past, present, future all bleeding together. She saw her father teaching her to hunt. She saw her mother singing lullabies. She saw her family burning, screaming, dying. And she saw something else. A white wolf. Massive and ethereal, with eyes the color of starlight. It stood in a field of silver flowers, and when it howled, the sound shook the foundations of reality itself. You are not broken, a voice said, ancient, feminine, powerful. You are sleeping. But it is time to wake up, daughter of thorns. Your mate needs you. Your revenge awaits. Rise. Selene's eyes snapped open, but they were no longer brown. They glowed pure silver white, the color of moonlight on fresh snow. Power exploded from her body in a shockwave that sent Morgana flying backward. The chains shattered. The torches extinguished. And when Selene stood, she was no longer the broken, wolfless girl. She was something else entirely. The transformation. Her body erupted with light as bone and muscle reformed, as the dormant wolf inside her finally broke free. The shift was agonizing and ecstatic all at once. When it was complete, Selene stood on 4 legs for the first time in her life. She was massive, nearly as large as an alpha's wolf, with fur the color of fresh snow and eyes that glowed with seer magic. But she was more than just a wolf. She could feel the power coursing through her veins, the ability to see the threads of fate, to manipulate probability, to bend reality itself to her will. And she could see exactly what Morgana had planned. The sorceress scrambled backward, genuine fear crossing her face for the first time. Impossible. You're supposed to be wolfless. You're supposed to be weak? Selene's voice echoed directly into Morgana's mind, carried by seer magic. You never understood, did you? My wolf wasn't broken. She was protecting me. Waiting for the moment when I would be strong enough to control this power without being consumed by it. Morgana threw a bolt of dark magic. Selene simply stepped sideways, into a timeline where the attack had never been launched. You made a mistake, Selene continued, stalking forward. You woke the one thing in this world that can actually kill you. A seer wolf at full power. The last of her kind. And she is very angry. Wait. Morgana shrieked, throwing up her hands. We can make a deal. I can give you anything, power, wealth, revenge on everyone who wronged you. I already have everything I need, Selene said. A mate who would die for me. A pack who will accept me. and the power to rewrite your fate. She pounced. The blood oath revealed. But Morgana had one last trick. As Celine's jaws closed around her throat, the sorceress laughed, a horrible, gurgling sound. Kill me, and Kale dies. The blood oath is tied to my life force. Celine froze. You're lying. Am I? Blood spilled from Morgana's lips. Go ahead. Test it. Kill me and feel your mate's heart stop beating. Through the mate bond, Celine could feel Kale. He was close, racing through the mountains with an army at his back. She could feel his rage, his desperation, his love for her burning like a star. And beneath it all, she could feel the blood oath wrapped around his soul like a parasite. Morgana was telling the truth. Then I'll just have to break the oath, Celine said. Impossible, Morgana wheezed. No one can. I'm a seer wolf, Celine interrupted. I can see the threads that bind all things. Including blood oaths. She closed her eyes, letting her newfound power flow through her. The world exploded into a tapestry of glowing threads, red for blood ties, gold for mate bonds, black for curses and oaths. She found the thread connecting Kale to Morgana. It was thick and pulsing with dark magic, wrapped around his heart like barbed wire. One wrong move and it would kill him. But Celine could see the pattern now. Could see the weakness in the weaving. Blood oaths could only be broken by three things: the death of both parties, the fulfillment of the oath, or true love's sacrifice. Celine understood what she had to do. The ultimate choice. She shifted back to human form, naked and covered in blood, still holding Morgana by the throat. Listen carefully, Celine said coldly. I'm going to give you one chance to break the oath willingly. Release Kale, and I'll let you live. Morgana's laugh was weak. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'll rewrite your fate. I'll make it so you were never born. I'll erase you from reality itself, and everyone you've ever loved will forget you existed. The sorceress's eyes widened. You can't. I'm a seer wolf at full power, Celine said simply. I can do anything. It was a bluff. Celine had no idea if she could actually erase someone from existence. But Morgana didn't know that. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then Morgana closed her eyes. Fine. Fine. I'll break the oath. But you have to promise. No promises, Celine said. Just do it. Morgana began to chant in an ancient language, her hands glowing with crimson light. Celine felt the blood oath begin to unravel, felt Kale's soul sighing in relief even from miles away. But just as the final thread was about to break, Morgana's eyes snapped open. Foolish girl, she hissed. Did you really think I'd give up that easily? She plunged a hidden dagger straight into Celine's heart. The mate's rage. Kale felt the moment Celine was stabbed. He was halfway up the mountain, leading his army through Morgana's defenses, when the mate bond exploded with agony. He felt Celine's pain, felt her life force beginning to fade, and something inside him broke. His shift was instantaneous and involuntary. His black wolf erupted from his human skin, but this time it was different. This time, he was bigger, darker, wreathed in shadows that felt almost alive. This was his true form. The form he'd hidden for centuries. He was an ancient alpha, a bloodline so old and powerful that most believed they were extinct. And right now, he was the most dangerous creature on the planet. He tore through Morgana's army like they were made of paper. Witches tried to stop him with spells, he simply absorbed their magic and used it to fuel his rage. Demons rose from the ground to block his path, he ripped them apart with his bare claws. Nothing would keep him from his mate. Nothing. The true sacrifice. Celine stared down at the dagger embedded in her chest. She should have been dying. The blade had pierced her heart, she could feel it, could feel her blood pumping out with each weakening beat. But then the seer magic kicked in. She saw the threads of her own fate unraveling. Saw the timeline where she died here, in this dungeon, with Morgana laughing over her corpse. And she simply chose a different thread. In this timeline, the dagger had missed her heart by a fraction of an inch. In this timeline, she lived. No, Morgana whispered, her face going pale. No, that's not possible. I felt the blade pierce your heart. You felt what I let you feel, Celine said, yanking the dagger out with a gasp of pain. Blood poured from the wound, but it wasn't fatal. Not anymore. Did you really think I'd let you kill me? I'm the one who controls fate now. She plunged the dagger into Morgana's chest, right where the sorceress's own heart beat. This is for my family, Celine whispered. For every person you've hurt. For every life you've destroyed. Morgana's eyes went wide. She tried to speak, tried to cast one final spell, but Celine was faster. She reached into the tapestry of fate and pulled. The blood oath shattered like glass. Morgana screamed as centuries of stolen life force was ripped from her body. She aged rapidly, beautiful face turning to wrinkled flesh, black hair turning white, strong body withering to dust. Within seconds, there was nothing left but ash and the faint smell of sulfur. The blood oath was broken. Celine collapsed, her wound still bleeding, her power exhausted. Above her, the dungeon ceiling exploded. The reunion. Kale's massive black wolf landed in the center of the room, his silver eyes wild with rage and terror. When he saw Celine lying in a pool of blood, something inside him shattered. He shifted immediately, his human form manifesting as he fell to his knees beside her. No, 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 he chanted, his hands hovering over her wound, afraid to touch her and cause more pain. Celine, stay with me. Please, don't leave me. Don't. I'm okay, she whispered, her hand finding his. I'm okay, Kale. I changed my fate. He stared at her, not comprehending. Then her wound began to glow with silver-white light. The flesh knitted itself back together, the blood stopping, the pain fading. Seer wolf healing. One of the lost abilities of her bloodline. You're alive, he breathed. I'm alive, she confirmed. Then he was kissing her, desperately, frantically, his hands cradling her face like she was the most precious thing in existence. I thought I lost you, he said against her lips. I thought. You didn't, she said. You'll never lose me, Kale. I promise. The oath is broken. You're free. He pulled back just enough to stare at her, his silver eyes shining with an emotion she'd never seen before. Marry me, he said. Celine blinked. What? Marry me, he repeated. Right now. Today. I don't want to wait another second. I want you as my mate, my queen, my wife. I want the world to know you're mine and I'm yours. Celine's laugh was watery, her own tears flowing freely now. Yes, she said. Yes, you ridiculous alpha king. I'll marry you. He kissed her again, and this time when the mate bond flared between them, there was nothing holding it back. It completed fully, irrevocably, binding their souls together for eternity. 6 months later. Epilogue. The Northern Dominion had never seen a coronation like this. Celine Ashford, formerly Thorne, stood on the balcony of Shadow Peak, wearing a crown of silver and diamonds that caught the sunlight. Below, thousands of pack members cheered, their voices carrying across the mountains. She was no longer the broken, wolfless girl who'd served champagne at a gala. She was the Alpha Queen. The last seer wolf. The woman who'd broken a blood oath and killed an immortal sorceress. And she was happy. Kale stood beside her, his hand wrapped firmly around hers. Regrets? He murmured. Not even one, she said, squeezing back. Behind them, Lord Blackwell and the corrupt council members were serving life sentences in the new rehabilitation center Celine had established, because she believed even traitors deserved a chance at redemption, much to Kale's frustration. Theron's son had been found alive and returned to what remained of his family. And Celine's nightmares about her murdered pack had finally started to fade, replaced by dreams of a future she was building with her mate. "Ready?" Cale asked. "For what?" He grinned, that devastating smile that still made her knees weak. "To change the world, my queen. Together." Celine looked out at her new pack, at the kingdom she would help rule, at the future stretching bright and infinite before them. "Together," she agreed. And when she kissed her Alpha King under the approving roar of their pack, she knew with absolute certainty. This was the fate she was always meant to have. This was her revenge, not through violence, but through living fully, loving fiercely, and building something beautiful from the ashes of tragedy. This was her happy ending. And it was only the beginning.